Gave up a TV job to start a podcast in your basement. If that doesn't scream midlife crisis, I don't know what does.
It was Championship Sunday here in Indianapolis. What's the mindset then coming in as a defending champion?
I want to win. No, I want to win.
The young lady over my shoulder, Caitlin Clark.
Not the best looking guy. And I don't think anyone's going to sit here and say, Matt Randazzo was really good looking.
What has this last month, 2 months, 3 months been like for you? It's an important fan base for the Fighting Illini, is it not?
It is.
He turned 69 years young last week. You look good, Coach.
Oh, try it. Thank you.
Welcome to Off the Air with Matt Randazzo here on a Wednesday in the Quad Cities. Wednesday, September 3rd. Thank you guys so much for joining us. If you're watching us live on YouTube, thank you for that. Thank you for subscribing. If you have subscribed, if you haven't, shame on you. Do that. Tell a friend or two or 10 about what we do each and every day right here in the Quad Cities talking sports around 10 a.m. I also want to thank everyone for watching us on X. X has been very, very good to us. Thousands of people watched yesterday's show on X alone, which is really, really cool. So we appreciate that. And then also you can check us out on all the podcasting platforms as well. That way you don't have to look at me, and I completely understand and agree with that as well. What a great week. Cyhawk week is officially rolling. So much to get to, so much to talk about. Back in my normal time slot, excited about that. No show on, so it was weird. Friday we did the show on the road, right time, but just on the road. A lot of fun. Saturday we did a post show for the Iowa game at like midnight. Monday we didn't have a show because we walked in the parade. And then yesterday, because of some radio responsibilities I had in Iowa City, we didn't do the show till 1 p.m. So back in our normal 10 o'clock normal spot in the morning, in the studio, all that kind of stuff. We'll do that for, I guess, a couple days. And then Friday we'll be on the road in Geneseo. Really cool matchup between Assumption and Geneseo coming up this week for week number 2 of the high school football season. So a lot to get to this week, a lot to get to today on a cloudy, rainy day, it looks like, here in the Quad Cities. So no excuse to go outside. Just stay inside, check out the show. And we got a lot to get to. We mentioned it's Cyhawk week coming up in a matter of moments. Our good friend, our Cyclone expert, Jake Brend, will be along to give this Cyclone perspective, and it's a great perspective. I mean, they're playing really good football, 2-0 on the season, playing at a high level. They're ranked in the AP Top 25. We'll talk about that in a second. So a lot of good things when it comes to Cyclone football. We'll get Jake Brend on here in a matter of moments. Also in hour number 1, we'll talk with the HawkeyeReport's Kyle Huesmann, because it was a big recruiting weekend in Iowa City. One young lady in particular has everyone talking a possible commitment of a top 10, top 5 player in the country. So we'll get to all that. We'll make sure Kyle weighs in on the Cyhawk game as well. So he'll double dip here in a little bit as well. And then Ty Taylor from WRMJ will be here in hour number 2 to talk about what is a really fun conference, the Three Rivers Conference, kind of previewing high school football, because week 2 will be here before you know it. That's the crazy thing, is the season starts, it's week 1, then you have Labor Day weekend, and like you turn around and you're like, wow, it's almost week 2. And then it just goes so fast. What a great fun time of year. A lot to get to for us today and throughout the week right here on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. A few quick news and notes before we get to our first guest. We mentioned the Cyclones are ranked. The AP Top 25s came out yesterday. Didn't get a chance to get to them on the show yesterday. So there's Illinois at number 11. The Illini will go to Duke this weekend. They're 2.5-point favorites on the road. We'll catch up with hopefully Ked Prince tomorrow and kind of chat some Illini as well. I know this week is dominated by the Cyhawk game, but Illinois playing really good football, impressive in their opener against Western Illinois, and now they hit the road for Duke in a key early season road game. So Illinois ranked number 11, and there you see Iowa State sitting there at number 16. Iowa State 2-0 on the season. They beat South Dakota 55-7. Some were worried about that game. I won't say I was worried, but I didn't think it looked like that. I thought it'd be a little closer than that. So very impressive. You see the very top of the poll, 1 and 2, both in the Big Ten. Ohio State and Penn State. Oregon from the Big Ten also in the top 10 at number 6 as well. Check out Alabama down at number 21, which is wild. Illinois and Iowa State are ranked well ahead of Alabama. I don't think too many people would have expected that come September 3rd this year as well. So a lot to get to with college football throughout the week, but wanted to get your AP Top 25 up there. Also, I want to congratulate, we talked a little bit about it yesterday, but Bettendorf's own Matt Drinkle winning his Division I college coaching debut last Friday night. Central Michigan went out to San Jose State as 2 touchdown underdogs, and they got a victory. So congrats to Matt Drinkle. He's got Derek Fulton up there running the offense. He's an Assumption guy. A couple PV kids and the Van Wetzinger brothers playing for him as well. So a lot of Quad City love up there. Texted with Coach Drinkle yesterday. I think I'm going to get a Central Michigan helmet to the mix here, which is key. So congratulations to Drink once again, making the Quad Cities proud. Major League Baseball yesterday, Cubs win 4-3. Kyle Tucker looking better, 3-run homer, big difference. But then he left with a calf strain, which is ironic because my fat ass ran yesterday and I strained my calf as well. So I mean, great athletes must be straining calves these days. So Cubs 80th victory of the season, 5 back of the Brewers. It's getting late, but that number's down to 5. So we'll see if they can make a push over the next week or two and get even closer in the division as well. So baseball will be big and important in October. Right now we're talking football, and more importantly, the Cy-Hawk game is officially here. And we're joined by our good friend Jake Brend from the CycloneFanatic. Thanks for joining us, man. I appreciate it. It's just a little, you can't be very busy this week. I mean, there's a tiny football game going on in Ames?
I thought you were having me on for the Cubs game tonight. Horton on the bump, 5 back. We're coming, baby. Let's
go,
do it.
Right? Hey, nothing more. Hey, I'm being serious. They play well this week. Get that thing to 3. Let's go.
The schedule's soft. And
yes.
The Brewers have the Phillies. Help us out, Kyle Schwarber. Let's make a push.
Yes,
but that's not why you're having me on.
No,
and
I will say that this real fast. The Brewers were the greatest team in the history of baseball for like a month and a half. They never lost, and it's still just 5. Like, think about that. The Brewers, God bless them, they were killing it, and it's still just 5. So, anyways, yes, the Cy-Hawk game coming up this week in Ames. I want to talk to you before we get to the game itself. You growing up as a Cyclone fan in the state of Iowa, so it's different for me. I grew up an Iowa fan here in the Quad Cities, and I grew up a long time ago when there were covered wagons and like Iowa won it every year. So it wasn't like Illinois was my rival. So it wasn't as big to me until recently. And that obviously last, 10 years have been fantastic or more. What was it like for you growing up in the state of Iowa? Did you hate Iowa? Did you love Iowa State?
Oh, yeah.
Was this the game?
Yeah, this was the game. I have vivid memories of, I believe I was in 3rd grade, and at my elementary school, the day before the Cy-Hawk game, they would always play the fight song of both schools, like over the PA. And I vividly remember when I was in 3rd grade, I was the only one who stood up during the Iowa State fight song. Kids threw pencils at me. It's always been like a one-sided rivalry from a fan base perspective in my life, whether it was elementary school, and the fan base has definitely built up more now, like especially the last 5 years. It was cooler to be a Breece Hall fan than to like good defense and special teams. So I do feel like the younger generation is more split now than it used to be, but I felt like when I was growing up, it was 90-10 the other way.
Yeah.
And I was closer to Ames.
Yeah, and that's true. I went to Iowa City yesterday there in the morning, and the game's not in Iowa City, it's in Ames, and there's already signs up. I can only imagine. I did see some signs on social media, which I don't want to talk about on the show. I kind of keep it halfway.
I saw them too.
Yeah, I want to keep it halfway clean. I mean, it's YouTube. I could say whatever, but I got to be. I'm a pregame host now. I got to actually have some social manners. But yeah. So I mean, it's obviously a heated rivalry, and there's that, and it's always that. But Jake, we've talked about it a lot in recent years. This is a good football game between two teams that have high expectations. That changes. This isn't just, and you're going to hate this analogy, big brother, little brother, or an in-state rivalry, or we hate them, they hate us. It's two good football teams. If these teams were playing, out west and they were different uniforms, it'd be a good football game, right?
Oh, 100%. And it's got real stakes, especially for the Big 12. Like, Baylor embarrassed the conference last week.
I saw you tweeting about that.
Yeah, I was not happy with Baylor, but like Arizona State goes to Mississippi State this week. Iowa State plays Iowa. Those are two massive opportunities that the Big 12 needs every single one of those that they can get. And then from a smaller scale perspective for Iowa State and Iowa, probably Iowa more. If you want to make the college football playoff, this is almost a must win. Iowa State, I'm of the belief that the Big 12 is probably a one-bid league, so you really just need to win the conference to get in. But there are outside chances where, like, if you go 11-1 or something like that, you could be going to the college football playoff. So this is a monumental game for both sides if they want to reach the goals that they have in place. And that's not even factoring in Iowa State not winning a game at Jack Trice Stadium against Iowa in 14 years.
And then
14.
also, and factor in the fact that if Iowa wins, Kirk Ferentz becomes the Big Ten's ultimate.
Yeah,
leading
206.
coach. It's just, there's so many different storylines we'll get into. I want to start with quarterback, and I want to flip it a little bit because the entire state is talking about Mark Gronowski and like what happened in his debut, and was it a complete body of work, incomplete jitters, all those kind of things. And then you had quietly over in Ames, I don't want to say quietly, but Rocco Becht was like 19 to 20, almost 300, 3 touchdowns. Like, if I'm playing fantasy football, that guy's winning me leagues this past week. And I love it because the OC for and I'm stealing this from CycloneFanatic and you, but kind of talked about Rocco Becht, and we see what we see out on the field and all that. But I love this inside perspective of their quarterback. So take a listen, then we'll talk about it.
Rocco is I think he's a psychopath more than people think. Like, even you watch the start of the K-State game, some of the stuff that was there, like, that guy's better when all the air sucked out of the stadium, everybody can barely see and stand up, and it's about to puke, and that guy's just nails. And even going into last week, like, we didn't take the shot to start the game because, like, it's cool or that's what we did before. It's like, Rocco's better when we take a shot early and we put a lot on that guy's. The more we put on that guy's plate, the better he is. The easier we try to make it for him. For whatever reason, it's not, and he's better with his back against the wall. Like, the guy's just nuts, and I love him, and he's great, and I die for him. And he's so trusted, and you always feel like you have a chance with that guy. It doesn't matter what it is. If it's football, we talk about golf and all the other stuff we play all off season. Like, he wants to win everything in the worst way, and he's the ultimate competitor, and he's a guy that makes everyone around him better. He gives belief. He puts belief into everybody, into Campbell, into me, into his teammates.
Kind of says a lot, Jake, about that starting quarterback. You've gotten to know him. You've been around him. You've seen him. The numbers are the numbers, and they're really good. But that kid's got something different when it comes to intangibles, doesn't he?
Yeah, and it's really hard to put into words, and that's why I'm glad Taylor Mauser did it, because that is exactly what we don't see. Like, we don't see what it's like in practice or the locker room. And it's hard to not go back to 2023. Rocco gets the job, beats out a true freshman, J.J. Cole, but not by much. They're splitting reps. This was after the gambling scandal that knocked out Hunter Deckers before the season. So it's like, well, we got this Rocco kid who was probably just going to be a backup here because they had Deckers. And they got this 4-star highest recruit in program history, and he somehow beat him out. Didn't do much against UNI, didn't do much against Iowa, and then they lose at Ohio. Like, the program had bottomed out, but Campbell always goes back to at halftime of that game, the flu was going through the program, and Rocco was puking his guts out at halftime. And Campbell thought he was done. Like, he didn't think he was going to be able to go out there for the second half. But he rallied, and he was honest. He played well in the second half. He was not the reason they lost that game. And from that point on, Rocco has taken the reins of the program. And you've seen him not only get better from a leadership standpoint, you've seen him get better in pretty much all aspects. And now he's just a killer. And that's the type of guy that you want in charge of your program. And you feel it every day when you're around the team, when you're at the game. If Rocco Becht gets the ball with a chance to go win the game or put the game away, you just think he's going to do it. And not more times than not, you think he's going to do it like 9 times out of 10. And I think that's a very rare trait in a quarterback.
Yeah, no, it's impressive to see Big 12 Offensive Player of the Week and flip it then because I want to get your perspective on Mark Gronowski. And it was funny because when Iowa State was playing Kansas State and it was the only game going and it's first half and it's sloppy, you went on to Twitter and there was the Iowa fans and experts saying like, wow, this offensive line is not very good. This and I'm assuming probably Iowa State fans did the same last week. They could turn on the TV and say like he's not playing well. He just missed a wide open receiver. You have that, and then I go back to kind of the same stuff you just talked about with Rocco Becht. The guy's 50-6 as a starting quarterback. I mean, he didn't forget how to play quarterback, and you don't just accidentally win 50 games as a starting quarterback if you're not good. So I guess your thoughts on what you saw from last week with Mark Gronowski, is it overblown, and what do you expect maybe this week?
Yeah, it's probably a little overblown. I was sitting in I think it was the post-game press conference or either the photo room. Either way, I was not focused on the Iowa game. I didn't even have it on. And I just got a text from a pretty notable Iowa figure. It's like, I'm pretty sure that I just saw the 2 worst throws ever by an Iowa quarterback back to back.
I won't say a name, but I can guess that text. But go ahead.
Like, that sounds like an over exaggeration. Then I watched him, like, oh my gosh!
We thought it was tipped. We thought like in the press box, I'm like, that had to be tipped, and we kept looking at and no, it wasn't. But go ahead.
Yeah, so I watched him like, okay, it probably was that bad. And then you watch over the course of the game, and it figured it out a little bit. I guess what my concern would be for Gronowski would be that the staff kind of punted the rest of the game of like, they knew that they could run the ball down their throats no matter what. And that probably wasn't going to make the team better. It was obviously going to help them win and blow them out. But what you really wanted to see was for Gronowski to build chemistry with the receivers, go downfield a little bit. And they didn't get to do that. So I think Gronowski will be fine over the course of the season. I think he will work out those jitters. I think he'll build chemistry with the receivers. But I don't know what that's going to look like next week. If he's won a national championship, if he's won 50 games and was super nervous for his first Power 5 game against Albany, what's it going to be like in Jack Trice Stadium with the stadium on fire? That's, I guess, where my concern would be, but I don't think he's Deacon Hill. I have a very hard time believing that guy could win 50 games at the FCS level, come up and just be Deacon Hill.
Yeah, no, and great points. To that as well, I can see it like tweets like during the game or posts going like, he's already got more passing yards than he did in one quarter than he had the entire game last week because it was so. And you're right, like Iowa, it felt like they wanted to go back to it and like kind of throw it around a little bit, but it just it goes against everything Kirk thinks. It's like they're up by 30 points or whatever it was, 25 points in the second half. It goes against that. And then also he starts cramping. That's the weird thing is it's just, to me, it's incomplete because yuck early first 2 drives. You can't judge a guy on 2 drives, but really, I mean, those throws were, Then it was like, all of a sudden it was 7-3 and Kirk said, okay, enough of this. Let's just, they run the football for a quarter and a half. And then maybe when it's time to kind of go do those kind of things, he's cramping on the sideline. So that's just one of the matchups this week. If you look quarterbacks, Gronowski and Rocco, and boy, you probably got to go right now the way Rocco's playing. You got to go with Iowa State. We'll see I don't think you thought it would be that big of a gap going into this game. I think that game yesterday really widened the gap in people's eyes. We'll see what happens, but in people's eyes. Other great matchups when it comes to this week. This is going to be a weird one, but are there 2 better kickers in football than what's going to be at Jack Trice Stadium? You got Kyle Conradi, who hits the 63-yarder. He won it last year in Kinnick Stadium. And not even, it was a lengthy kick, and could have made it from 63 maybe last year. And then you have Drew Stevens making his career high last week and one of the best kickers in football. Boy, us fans in Iowa like our special teams, don't they, Jake?
Well, Iowa State fans like them now. I felt like
that's true.
For eternity, they did not like them. But Matt Campbell, I think that was my biggest critique of him was, come on, man, you preach margins all of the time. And you come out here and the special teams are just terrible. And the last 3 years, they have completely turned that around in all aspects. Conradi has made clutch kick after clutch kick. I still want to see him in high pressure situations, making like, not the chip shots, but the 30, 40 yarders. I know he missed the one in Dublin. I went back when I watched the Sky Cam. I did not realize how bad of a snap that was. So in my eyes, he's still good this season. I'm excited to see where that growth has come, like, all around. Yeah. The punting game, Iowa State's been really good. The kick and punt return, Aiden Flora from ADM has been awesome. He appeared to be his hamstring on Saturday, so that could be a big key heading into this week. And I guess the only concern for special teams on my end for Iowa State would be kicking the ball out of the end zone. Their place kicker, Jace Gilbert, appeared to tweak something last week. I don't know if he'll be good to go. They've been struggling on touchbacks this season, and you do not want to kick it to Caleb Weegan. Like, you do not want to do that. So that is one of those potential swing moments where if he can break one loose, that could change a game that almost always comes down to one possession.
Let's talk about the trenches, because I think if Iowa State fans think maybe advantage at quarterback, I think Iowa's got an advantage up front. That offensive line was really good last week. I know it was Albany. I get that, but I think it's going to be a really good offensive line. Lack of pressures so far through 2 games when it comes to Iowa State and the defensive line. It's something that you kind of wondered about early on in the season. Does Iowa have an if there's a concern for Iowa State, is it up front going into the game?
Yeah, the concern for Iowa State would be if Iowa is able to get an early lead. I don't know how they would do that. Is it a punt return? Are they able to just move the ball and score early? And then they're able to just take over up front. And I do think that Iowa will be able to run the ball very well, especially if they get the lead. Will they be able to capitalize in the red zone? That's the question. I guess that's always the question in this game. And on the other side, I don't think Iowa State's going to get shut down in the run game, but they're definitely not going to be able to run the ball at will. So it is going to come down to Rocco and protecting Rocco. I think the O-line has been pretty dang good in pass protection under Ryan Clanton. The first half against K-State was bad. I'm not too concerned about that area, but I would definitely say that Iowa has an edge to a big edge in the trenches.
Running game for Iowa State, where's that right now? I mean, obviously, Carson Hansen looked really good, especially late against Kansas State. Last week, 9 carries, 19 yards, didn't do much. They did run the ball effectively. Dylan Lee looked good. Obviously, when you're throwing the ball for 300 yards, the running game doesn't have to be amazing.
Yeah.
Where are they at when it comes to the running game right now up in Ames?
It's indifferent. I don't know. They looked so good in the second half against Kansas State and took the game over in that way against what I think is a really, really good front seven for K-State. They didn't really have to do much against South Dakota, and when they tried to do stuff, they didn't look great. So I wouldn't say it's overwhelming confidence of the running game heading into it, but what I will say is I do trust Carson Hansen in big situations. So if it's a 3rd and 2, I do trust, no matter what the O-line or the D-line does, I trust Hansen in most cases to find a way to get those 2 yards. But I would be shocked if I come on here next week and I'm breaking down, how did Iowa State run for 140 yards on Iowa? Because I don't see that happening.
Sure. Jake Brend joining us right now on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. So a few more for you before this week's going to be crazy for you. Why hasn't Iowa State won at home? It's one of the weirdest things because they've won 4 times since then, but they've all been Iowa City. That I think, is it the most overblown stat of the week, or is there something to the fact that they haven't won in Ames since 2011?
There's definitely something to it. And I asked Matt Campbell about it yesterday, and he said that there's definitely a tendency for the home team in this series to get more distracted from having having the game lead up on your campus from Thursday to Friday to Saturday. And the home team hasn't won in this series since 2018, which is almost equally crazy. It doesn't make any sense. From an Iowa State perspective, you don't want to make excuses, but I think there is an explanation on why it's been so long. Because the Paul Rhodes era, the 13 and 15 teams sucked. Iowa was just a much better team those 2 years. 17 was a young Iowa State team that most didn't expect to be good. An awesome overtime game against Iowa. 2019, there was the weird weather delays. Yeah. I think you can make an argument like the way Iowa State started that game, if it doesn't get delayed, they might run away that day. 21, that team folded in pretty much every single pressure situation that year, and you could just feel the tension. You could cut the tension with a knife with how tight it was that day against Iowa with College Game Day in the building, and Iowa just flat out dominated. 23, Rocco Becht making a second career start. The whole gambling thing was weird. So it doesn't feel like there's been a normal Cy-Hawk game at Jack Trice Stadium in a long, long time. But there's definitely something if it's been that many years since they've been able to do it at home, that Kirk Ferentz is just so good in these games. It doesn't matter if it's at Kinnick Stadium, if it's at Jack Trice Stadium, if it's at Memorial Stadium. For whatever reason, Ferentz always gets his team to play a little bit better in these rivalry games.
Jake Brend joining us right now on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. Jake, you mentioned Kirk Ferentz. He can become the winningest coach in Big Ten history. And it's weird because there was an article this morning. I think he lost 19 of his first 20 games or 18 of his first 20 games at the University of Iowa. And you're a college football fan, and that's a long time ago. But there's something to be said about being patient with a program that's being rebuilt. And I think Iowa State did that with Matt Campbell in some ups and downs, and look where they're at now. Your thoughts on hearing that stat, that he was so bad early. Nowadays, he would be done. They'd be moving on. And you've covered the University of Iowa. You covered Kirk Ferentz. Your thoughts on that record. And obviously you don't want it to happen this week, but eventually it's going to happen. Your thoughts on him becoming the all-time winningest coach in Big Ten history.
Yeah, I'd much rather it happen against UMass. I think that'd be I think I'd prefer that. But no, I just think it's an example of something that would never ever happen today. Like there's very few programs that would let that happen, and you have to go back, maybe not Matt Campbell for Iowa State, but go back to Dan McCarney. They didn't have a winning season his first 5 years. He is, in today's college football, you're not making it 3 years without a winning season. So it's cool to see that for Ferentz, not only how it started. I wasn't around when it started, but to see, again, how he's had the highs and lows. He had those extreme highs of the late 2000s, and there was some of the lows in the 2012, 2013, 2014, and another high. And it's been ups and downs, and he's cemented himself as easily one of the best college football coaches in the history of the sport. And he will be very, very deserving of that 206 when it comes against UMass.
I love it. It's good. It's a good segue. And I will say this with Kirk Ferentz, there's several times, not recently, but over the years that I was like, this is probably just got to be it. Like the whole scandal during COVID with all that kind of stuff. And then just the way college football's gone. And I'm like, there's no way that Kirk Ferentz is going to be bringing in transfers and dealing with paying play, all that NIL stuff. And he's done a good job of, adapting to the times and continuing to win football games in Iowa City. Speaking of winning football games, I got to get a pick. Your thoughts this week at Kinnick Stadium, at Jack Trice Stadium. Who wins this game? What's the final score? And what's the reason why that score takes place?
So I went with a rare double-digit victory in this series. Wow. I went Iowa State 24, Iowa 13 on my Iowa Everywhere predictions column. And I think my reasoning, I think Iowa State will be able to score a touchdown early. And the one area that we didn't talk about in this game was the Iowa secondary. I don't know what your thoughts are, but to me, from the outside looking in, it just looks like a step down from what we're used to. And I think that Iowa could have a really hard time with Ben Bramer and Gabe Burkle. And those guys can open up stuff for everybody else. I think if Iowa State gets a lead in this game and forces Iowa to try and beat them through the air, I think it could be a bit of not a lopsided game. Like I don't think this is going to be a game that's over at any point through the first 3 quarters, but I think Iowa State will be up, maybe score a late touchdown and be able to put the game away late.
So Jake Brend has Iowa State 24, Iowa 13. Jake was wrong week 1. Iowa fans.
I was.
Let's hope that and as the unbiased pregame host of the Iowa Football Radio Network, I've got Iowa winning. So I think it says in my contract I have to do that as well. But you're right. I think it's always a close game. It always is. I'm intrigued. I don't want to talk too much about the gambling stuff with Iowa when it comes to the game itself, but that line has just stayed right there. And I think that's intriguing to me because the way Iowa, it is funny because somebody on X kind of posted at me or commented towards me last night, like, why are we acting like Iowa lost on Saturday? And that's a good point. Like, Iowa won the game and they played well in a lot of areas. You mentioned cornerback. I thought they both played well, but you're right. You don't have that Cooper DeJean, that Desmond King, that guy there yet that you're like, okay, he's gonna take care of that half, and then we're gonna do other things. So it's bottom line, it's gonna be a great game, great environment in Iowa. Or I keep saying Iowa City, in Ames. Enjoy it. Have fun with it. I can't wait to talk to you next week about it. And it should be a blast. I appreciate it. And tell people, Cyclone fans here in the Quad Cities, they're probably looking at my X feed going, oh, he's finally got a Cyclone guy on there. Tell people how to get the content at CycloneFanatic and everything you're doing right now. You're killing it.
Yep, CycloneFanatic.com. That's the best way to... It's our home base. You can read our articles there. You can find our podcasts and where to listen to them there. And then Cyclone Fanatic on YouTube. Yeah. Like that's where we've got so much of our digital content, all of our digital content there. Those are the 2 best home bases. And then, of course, at any social media, you'll be able to find what we're doing. So Cyclone Fanatic, check it out. It's the best way to get up to speed on game week.
Well, we always appreciate your content and your you showing up and doing the show. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you again next week. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks a lot, Dazzo.
All right. That is Jake Brend, the super talent, the sportscaster of the year. I forgot even to make fun of him about that. Not make fun of him, but to continue to tell him about that. He's as good as it gets, does a fantastic job for the Cyclone Fanatic. Check out all his stuff. And he goes 24-13. Iowa State with a rare double-digit victory is his thoughts. So we'll continue to talk about the Cy-Hawk game throughout today's show, tomorrow as well. Coming up tomorrow, we have Tom Kakert from the Hawkeye Report and Bill Seals from the Cyclone Report joining us together, like a little round table to talk about the game itself as well. So a lot to get to this week when it comes to the Cy-Hawk game. And again, tomorrow we will hit on Illinois and get all Illinois stuff taken care of as well. So such a fun time of year. Such a great fun time of year. Speaking of that, we're going to go away from football next segment for just a little bit. We'll have some football in it. But the Iowa women's basketball team has a laundry list of about 6 official visitors coming to the University of Iowa this fall for official visits, and they are some of the most talented players in the entire country. That included a young lady last weekend that Kyle Huesmann has put in a prediction for the University of Iowa. So we'll talk about that. A little women's basketball talk with Kyle Huesmann, and then we'll talk to him about the Cy-Hawk game as well. Later in the show, Ty Taylor and some high school football talk as well, and a whole bunch more. You're watching a jam-packed Off the Air with Matt Randazzo right here on a Wednesday in the Quad Cities. All right, be honest. Are you craving Hungry Hobo again? You know, that fresh sliced meat piled high on those amazing sandwiches, hot off the grill chicken and steak with all those delicious toppings, the biggest and best selection of baked potatoes, or simply some waffle fries dipped in cheese. Well, now that Quad City favorite is even easier to get. Download the Hungry Hobo app today. Order ahead, skip the line, and earn rewards all at the same time. There's Double Points Monday and exclusive specials as well. With 12 locations in the Quad City area, it's Hungry Hobo. Now even easier to find, but still hard to resist.
Rafferty Funeral Home, dedicated to serving families in the Quad Cities since 2007.
Hi, welcome. Here, come on in.
An experienced staff plans each service to reflect the unique life and legacy of your loved one. Rafferty Funeral Home is proud to serve our community with dignity, respect, and compassion, helping you to celebrate your traditions and lasting memories no matter your faith, culture, or budget. Rafferty Funeral Home in Moline. Call today to discuss pre-arrangements.
When it comes to quality, convenient pizza, Godfather's Pizza in Silvis has you covered. Featuring a beautiful dine-in area, delivery, and a carry-out window. Godfather's Pizza is that pizza you grew up with, not a convenience store. You see, at Godfather's Pizza, the dough is made fresh daily. That mozzarella cheese is shredded fresh and never frozen. And those toppings are abundantly piled high each and every time. Locally owned and operated since 2010, Godfather's is a huge supporter of local athletes right here in the Quad Cities. So come on by and check them out at 1211 Avenue of the Cities in Silvis. Order online at godfathers.com and reunite with that same delicious pizza you grew up with.
Give me the keys. Learning to drive can be stressful for both the student and, yes, the parent as well. Relax. There's an easy way to avoid the stress. Skiles Driving School in East Moline has been helping new drivers hit the road with confidence for over 20 years. Whether you're a teen earning your first license or an adult looking for behind-the-wheel training, we've got you covered. Their certified instructors are patient, experienced, and use modern vehicles equipped for safety and comfort. From classroom instruction to real-world driving, we make learning safe, affordable, and even fun. Call 309-278-0098 or visit skylesdriving.com. Skiles Driving School. Get in, buckle up, drive your future forward.
Welcome back to Off the Air with Matt Randazzo on a Wednesday here in the Quad Cities. A lot of things going on in Iowa City. Obviously, the football season opened last weekend, but in the mix of Mark Gronowski's debut and a football game and all of that was the Iowa women's basketball team hosting a prize recruit and also lining some up for the fall as well. So joining me now, somebody that I got too much caker is what everybody's been telling me. I was in Iowa City last week and everyone's like, where's Kyle? Like, why aren't we getting more Kyle? So without further ado, Kyle Huesmann from the HawkeyeReport.com joining me right now. How have you been, my friend? It's been a minute.
Yeah, it has been a while. I don't believe you that people were stopping you and telling me that I need to be back on the show. I like to believe that that's true, but I mean, the people may like me on the show, but I don't know if they're asking you to get me back on again. But yeah, I've been good. I mean, we're into soccer season, field hockey season's going. There's gonna be fall baseball soon, and as you mentioned, football season's going, which is really the best time of the year in my opinion.
Yeah, you mentioned field hockey. Their head coach will be joining me on the pregame show this week from Big Grove Brewery. So if you're roaming around on Saturday morning and you want to watch the game at a great place, Big Grove Brewery is a great place to watch in Iowa City. We'll kick off the festivities for the pregame show with the Hawkeye Tailgate Show at 9 o'clock at Big Grove in Iowa City. But I had to have you on to talk about women's basketball because every time I look at your Twitter account or just on X in general, there's something popping up about Iowa women in the top 5 and the top 3 and the top 6 for big recruit after big recruit after big recruit. They finally had an official visitor this weekend. Obviously, all eyes on McKenna Woliczko. Did I get it right? Woliczko? Woliczko.
Yes. There you
okay.
go.
Got it. Anyways, McKenna was in town, and everybody was wondering, and she seemed like she had a fantastic time. What do you know?
Yeah, I mean, like a month and a half ago, she cut her list down to 4 final teams, which is Iowa, South Carolina, Ohio State, and USC, and has taken official visits now. Now they've all finished up those 4 official visits. And as you mentioned, Iowa got the final official visit this past weekend for the season opener football game for the Albany game. Obviously, her official visit spans a couple of days. But yeah, I mean, as everything that I've been told is that the official visit went very well. Got along with the team, things like that. And she'd already been on an unofficial visit last football season. Got a feel for the campus, for the program, for the team, things like that. Got to, everything that you would do on a normal unofficial visit, got to see practice, things like that. So I guess this official visit is kind of the second chance of the last chance for the coaching staff to kind of sell her on the program. Like, how do we see you fitting in with this roster, with this program? The academic side of things, basically trying to sell her not only on the women's basketball team, but on the university, the campus, the city, the academic side, because she's getting really close to making a final decision. I really think that, within the next week or so, maybe 10 days, she's going to make a decision. Now, what I will say is I don't know that making that final decision means that it will be public. Addie Deal's a really good example of committed to the coaching staff on her official visit. She was in Iowa City for that Ohio State game, the regular season finale a year ago, or 2 years ago now. Committed on that official visit and then did not make it public for another, week and a half, 2 weeks. So I think she's getting close to making a final decision, like I said, within the next 10 days or so. But I don't think that will be a public announcement for a couple of weeks or so. But certainly getting down to it, and I think this is probably down to Iowa and South Carolina at this point. She officially visited Ohio State months ago. I think it was back at the end of the women's basketball season, and I said at that point that when you take an official visit that early, it either has to be so good that you commit on the spot, or it has to be just so outstanding that it beats everything out the rest of the way, which is not super common. So like I said, I think it's down to Iowa and South Carolina right now, but I mean, this would be a massive land for Jan. Obviously it'd be her second commit, with Layla Hayes being the first one in last year's class, the 25 class, but McKenna would be the second highest recruit of all time to choose Iowa. She's ranked 6th in the country in the On3 rankings, just 2 spots behind what Caitlin was. She was number 4 in the 2020 class, and number 6 has been, Samantha Logic back in the 2011 class was 10th in that class. So you're talking about 2 really good Iowa women's basketball players that McKenna would be sandwiched between in those recruiting rankings. And as we know, recruiting rankings don't always pan out, but I think on the women's basketball side, more often than not, those top 5, those top 10, those top 15 recruits, more often than not, end up being really good basketball players.
You and I know Tom as well, feel bullish about Iowa's chances here. Kind of talk about that. You've put in a prediction. Where do you feel this thing? You mentioned it's probably going to happen soon, but you feel bullish about her becoming Hawkeye.
Yeah, I do. I think just, really it's kind of just an accumulation of stuff over the course of about a year since she took that unofficial visit, starting with, the comments that she made after that unofficial visit and the way things have gone really since then. I've just gotten the feeling that she, on the court, off the court, the way that she would fit in with the roster, she just feels like she needs to be a Hawkeye, right? I mean, you talk about some of the stuff that she mentions, whether it's the culture that she's looking for, the family feel with the program that she wants to commit to. That really, goes right into what Iowa likes to do, which is that big culture, that big family thing, that everybody matters, no matter how big or small your role is, that kind of stuff. I think that really fits into what she's looking for. And then, on the court, she's a fantastic basketball player. There's not many teams, if any teams across the country, that wouldn't want her if she just showed up and said, I want to commit to your program. But I think she really fits into what Iowa wants to do and what is coming and going on this roster over the next couple of years. Probably going to fill that powered forward position, no matter who she chooses. And I think that would fit really well for Iowa because Hannah Stolke is going to be a senior this coming season. After this coming season, she'll be gone. So you'll have that power forward position open. I think McKenna could slot right in there as a power forward as a true freshman. And really someone that I think could come in and be kind of close to that stretch 4 that I think Iowa fans have really wanted to see at that position over the last couple of years. That's kind of been maybe the missing piece. We'll see this season if Hannah Stolke can get closer to what people think that needs to happen. I still think that a stretch 4 would be really good. Maybe Hannah can be closer to that player this year, but I think McKenna is someone that, she can play, if you try to put a center, a big power forward on her, she's good enough to just drive to the basket. She's quick enough to do that. If you put a shorter play, like a small forward on her, she's big enough and lengthy enough to go post up in the paint and score that way. And she can shoot it from outside. She can drive in the paint. She's a really good rebounder. So just kind of that true stretch four player. I think when a lot of people think of a stretch four, they think of, a four that can shoot threes. But if you're going to play the four, you got to be able to defend power forwards. Power forwards, you can get a Hannah Stolke that can take you down into the paint and score that way. You've got to be able to rebound as a four, and she can do that. So, like I said, I think on the off the court or video on, I would call like the culture part of it, the family feel, the off the court stuff. I think she fits really well with Iowa, and then on the court, like I said, I think she fits really well with the coming and going parts of the roster over the next few years, and I think she'd really fit right in with what Iowa wants to do.
Kyle Huesmann joining us right now and off the air with Matt Randazzo. This is just the start of a big fall. And like I mentioned, every time I look at X, there's another, visitor coming or in the top 5, 10, the top 3, 6, whatever it is. What's next? And kind of give me a rundown of what maybe the next month or so looks like in Iowa City. Kyle, there's a lot of really, really talented young ladies interested in becoming Hawkeyes.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I mean obviously I haven't covered women's basketball, Iowa women's basketball for years and years. I mean it's only been 5 years now. So I don't have a ton of recruitments to look back on, but it feels like this is a pretty unique class because Iowa is kind of shifting to they're casting a wider net there. We're talking about McKenna Woliczko from California. They've got Ava Hayden who's from Oregon. They've got Addie Deal who's from California. They got Layla Hayes who's from Alaska. And you look at some of these other players they're going to be visiting. They're not Iowa. It's not Iowa, Illinois, Wisconsin anymore. They're casting a wider net. They're going after really highly rated players. And what that does for your recruiting class is that more often than not, your high 4 stars, your 5 stars, they're not committing as a sophomore in high school. They're not committing early as a junior because it's not their home state school. Like you saw with like a Hannah Stolke who committed as a freshman in high school. Kelly Levine committed really early. Journey Houston even committed really early. And she's from Davenport, so in state. When you're going after these highly rated recruits, they want to take their time to find the school that's right for them, and they want to take those official visits. And sometimes those official visits go right up to the early signing period at the end of, or I should say, at the beginning of their senior year of high school. So I think fans have to kind of get used to the fact that there's a chance that you go into the end of the summer, into the fall with 0 commits in their class. And right now, Iowa's in that boat. They have no commits right now for the 2026 class. McKenna Woliczko just visited. So they're going to have 6 more official visits this fall. They're going to get some. I mean, that's just the way it is. They're going to get somebody in this class. Is it 1? Is it 2? Is it 3? I don't know that at this point, but they're going to get somebody. The people that have kind of made a big deal about, they don't have anyone yet. That's just kind of how it goes when you're going after these highly rated players. Their recruitments, take a little bit longer. They stretch out a little bit longer. You got to be patient with it. So as you kind of asked there, who's coming up? You got 6 more official visits this fall. The next one coming up later this month, Gigi Battle from New Jersey. She plays down, I believe, in Florida at an academy school. Number 39 player in the country by On3. Someone that Iowa, offered really late in the process back in May. But someone that Lysandra Barrett knew, when she was at Georgia Tech, built a relationship with her. So when Lysandra came to Iowa, someone that, she obviously kind of said, hey, this is someone I feel like we should look at. I have a relationship with her. And that's how Iowa got the foot in the door with Gigi Battle. And I think it says a lot that Gigi gets this offer really late in the process. And she says, I'm still going to take an official visit. I know Lysandra Barrett. I don't know a ton about this program. Maybe don't know a ton about this coaching staff, but I'm still going to spend an official visit on this Iowa program. I think it says a lot about that relationship she had with Lysandra Barrett. She also got offers this summer from Indiana and NC State and has taken official visits with them. So she's not against maybe committing to someone that jumped in late. The one that is most recent in terms of scheduling an official visit, Vienna Murray out of Minnesota, a 4-star guard. Another one that got offered really late, but back in mid-July. She has scheduled official visits with Florida, Missouri, Wisconsin, Arizona State, Oklahoma, and then Iowa. Someone that the coaching staff has been watching for over a year now, about a year and a half. So even though the offer came late, it's not someone that they just jumped in really late, kind of like a Gigi Battle, not that type of late. The offer came late, but they've had a relationship with her for over a year now. They've been watching her, and she improved enough over the summer that they felt like they wanted to offer and bring her in for an official visit. So those are a couple of guards there. You move into October, and you've got 4-star power forward / center Amelia Kristevsky, who plays for Sierra Canyon out in California. She just recently announced her top 5, which is Iowa, Oklahoma, Oregon, Arizona State, and California. This is an intriguing one to me because you look at the future for Iowa and you see Ava Hayden and Layla Hayes for the next couple of years at center. I mean, Layla hasn't even started her true freshman season yet. So she's going to be around for 4 years yet. As I mentioned, can kind of play that power forward spot, but if McKenna Woliczko ends up committing to Iowa, that's a spot that she's going to be slotted into for 4 years. So interested to see if the coaching staff really goes after Kristevsky still if Woliczko were to commit. I just don't really see how she fits in to the future roster. Maybe they have different plans for her, but I just don't see it at this point. But again, she's going to be coming the October 17th weekend. And then now October 24th to 26th, Jenica Lewis, the Johnston native, the in-state recruit, the 4-star guard, will be in Iowa City, as will 4-star small forward Amari Biles, who is down in Texas, out of Texas. They'll both be on an official visit that weekend. Jenica Lewis is someone that knows the Iowa program about as well as any recruit in the country. She's been on campus for a number of unofficial visits, just visits to come watch games, not even things that have come down as an unofficial visit. It'll be interesting to see if Iowa could land her. It appears that it's down to North Carolina, Oregon, TCU, Notre Dame, and Iowa as well. Those are her 5 official visits. Iowa is the final official visit there, so that's worth noting. And then Amari Biles is someone that has just recently kind of come up and announced that she'll be taking an official visit to Iowa, as well as Ohio State, North Carolina, Baylor, Stanford, and Notre Dame. So a number of schools still going for her. And then Addison Bjorn's the one that we do not have an official visit date for. I've been told that she is going to take an official visit. I've also heard that maybe Iowa is on the outside looking in for her, but still I expect Iowa to get an official visit and have a chance with her. Have a chance, like I said, with what they do with McKenna Woliczko, one last chance to kind of sell every part of the program, the academic side, the campus side, the facilities, the program, everything like that. And Addison's been around the program a number of times. I would say outside of Jenica Lewis, she's been the one that's been on campus the next most. So someone that really knows the program. But yeah, with 6 more players coming in, there's a lot of chances to bring it. I mean, all these are really highly rated recruits, really sought after recruits. So I think they're going to add a couple of more. If Woliczko is the first one, that's a giant domino to get to fall. And maybe you can get someone else that says, hey, that's a really, really, really good basketball player. Maybe I'm going to take an extra look at Iowa that maybe I wasn't thinking about taking before. But certainly, I mean, with 7 official visits this fall, it's going to be really interesting to see how this class plays out. And if Iowa can get, 2, maybe even 3 in this class, it's going to be a really impressive group. Yeah,
you look at it too. I kind of wrote them down: New Jersey, Minnesota, California, Iowa, Texas. I missed one in between, but like you mentioned, that net is casted wide over the country. It's funny because, Kyle, I remember being told by a lot of people that like when Bluter left, when Caitlin left, this was going to go away. And it hasn't. I mean, and you get the vibe from McKenna this weekend and the amount of attention you're getting when you're in the final 2 maybe for a young lady with South Carolina. I know there's 4, but if it looks like it's 2 and it's Iowa, South Carolina, kind of just talk about the way that Coach Jensen's taken this thing over and continued it, and almost, when it comes to recruiting, elevated it to another level.
Yeah, I've said for a while that I thought this class, this 26 class, is the one that's going to tell us a lot about where this program is headed. And you mentioned Lisa Bluter and Caitlin Clark. I think a lot of people, there was a lot of talk about when Caitlin was still on the team, and then when she graduated, I think a lot of people assumed that because Iowa was on this such high pedestal with selling out season tickets, the fan support that they got from opposing fan bases. I mean, selling out basically every game of the entire season that senior year for Caitlin. I think a lot of people just assumed that recruits were going to be like, well, I'm going to Iowa. That recruits were just going to flock to Iowa. But I certainly believe there were people out there that just kind of thought that maybe Caitlin was just the right player for Iowa. That maybe Caitlin was the one that could do it at a place like Iowa. Maybe it's not possible to every year be a Final Four team at Iowa. You have to kind of reconvince these recruits that it is possible to do that at Iowa. And obviously, certainly the popularity they've had over the last couple of years helps a lot. But just having Caitlin and just making a Final Four isn't enough to win over these recruits. You have to convince those first couple to come. And Addie Deal was certainly kind of the first one there that maybe people took notice of and said, hey, that's a pretty highly rated player that is deciding to go to Iowa now and kind of be maybe be one of those next stars at Iowa. I think McKenna Woliczko is potentially that domino that could really break things where people go, okay, they've got Addie Deal. And even certainly some of the players on the roster right now, you bring in like an Emily Rodriguez who had a UConn offer out of high school. You bring in, like a Chit Chat Wright and some of those young players they've got on the roster along with an Addie Deal. If you add a McKenna Woliczko to that, I think you can certainly catch the attention of other recruits around the country that say, hey, there are other highly rated recruits like me who are buying into Iowa. And I think certainly when you talk about someone like McKenna Woliczko, I think the recruiting, maybe, the recruiting spiel is almost similar to like it was with Caitlin. Lisa Bluter talked a lot about, we wanted Caitlin to just believe that it could be done at Iowa. Certainly she could have went to Notre Dame. She briefly committed to Notre Dame. She probably could have went and maybe won a national title at Notre Dame or made a Final Four at Notre Dame. But Lisa Bluter wanted Caitlin to believe in the Iowa program, believe that it could be done at Iowa. You can make a Final Four at Iowa, and Caitlin believed that it could be done at Iowa. I think that same spiel is going to be handed out to McKenna Woliczko. Yeah, we did it with Caitlin, but you can maybe not be the next Caitlin, but you can be one of those centerpieces along with an Addie Deal, along with an Emily Rodriguez, along with any player on the roster right now. You guys can be the centerpieces for that next Iowa Final Four team. And I think it just takes those first couple of dominoes to fall. Like I said, Addie Deal was kind of one of the first ones. I think certainly getting like a Lucy Olson to buy in, even though she's gone now, someone like that to buy in certainly turns some heads. But I think McKenna Woliczko is really the one that could be the domino that falls and that makes people turn their head and say, hey, like, that's a top 10 recruit that wants to go to Iowa. Maybe I'm someone that should look at Iowa a little bit more as well. So I think this is a really big class for Iowa. I think it could be one that really kind of turns the recruiting focus for Iowa. Like we mentioned, casting the wider net. You can cast the wider net, but you got to land them, right? So I think if this class pans out and they can get 2 or 3 people in this class and have it be a really highly rated class, I think Iowa can certainly turn the tides on the recruiting side and potentially, make it consistent where they're having some of these top classes, top 15, top 20 classes in the country.
It's funny because when I asked you the question, I said to myself, well, she hasn't landed any yet. Not any, don't get me wrong, but this year. So, yes, the visit list looks amazing. And, yes, when you got someone the caliber of Kyle Huesmann predicting a big recruit, like it's close, but it's got that vibe of that feel that if you're casting this big a net with these type of players, you get 2 of them and you're 2 or 3 and you've got a fantastic class for the future. You can get all of Kyle's stuff at HawkeyeReport.com when it comes to the women's basketball. And you're right, because it's always interesting and exciting, and that's become the culture at the University of Iowa. You go up there and there's excitement for men's basketball, yes. But that's still, it's a special thing. I mean, I always joke with you when we talk Iowa women's basketball on the show, when Rob Brooks used to come on, when you've been on, people listen. So it's obviously in the forefront of a lot of people's mind. Also in the forefront of a lot of people's mind, and I can't let you go without chatting a little football with you. There's a little game this weekend in Ames. Iowa State and Iowa. Iowa State hasn't beaten Iowa in Ames since like 2011, and that was like a 3 overtime game. Iowa's done well in Ames. Everyone's excited about the Cyclones, how they've started already 2-0. What's your headline going into this game, Kyle? When you think Iowa State, you think Cyhawk this year. What's the headline that hops out to you?
Yeah, I think, oh man, you could go a lot of ways with that. I mean,
right?
I think the main headline is that Iowa State just hasn't won an Ames since 2011. I mean, they are a favorite. I think they're still like a 3-point favorite right now. It's just the second time in 8 meetings that Iowa State's been favored in this, so they're not favored very often. But yeah, I think that's the main headline is even though Iowa State's favored, even though they've looked pretty good, they looked really good against South Dakota. And I know it's South Dakota, but I mean, I don't think anybody expected them to win 55-7. They beat Kansas State in week 0. They've looked good, and I think maybe the national side, maybe those national analysts. I think that the picks this week from the national analysts are going to be mostly in favor of Iowa State. But to me, still that headline is going to be that Ames they just haven't won an Ames since 2011. And I think it's kind of like I kind of compare it to like the Iowa-Nebraska rivalry. the game's always close. It's always, down to the wire, but Nebraska always finds a way to lose that game, or Iowa finds a way to win it. I think it's similar that, Iowa State's always, pretty close to Iowa. Every single Cyhawk game seems to be close, but they just haven't gotten it done in Ames. So I think that's the headline for me is can Iowa State break through in Ames? But I mean, there's a number of headlines. I mean, you can talk about the Mark Gronowski headline of can he kind of a bounce back performance after an uneven, outing in his debut against Albany. The one thing that I'm really looking at is the battle of the two lines, the battle in the trenches, because I think that's somewhere where Iowa has a pretty big advantage. I would consider Iowa State's offensive line to be average. Rocco Beck's gotten sacked 4 times in 2 games. They're pretty poor last year if you look at some of the Pro Football Focus grades in terms of offensive line. And I think Iowa's got a good defensive line. So that's a matchup that I look at. And then you flip it the other way. I think Iowa has a really good offensive line. And Iowa State has, again, an average defensive line, maybe even below average. I mean, 130th in the country in sacks per game last year. They haven't recorded a sack in the first 2 games this season. I am the one that does the opponent preview for our site. Iowa State opposing quarterbacks have dropped back 60 times against Iowa State in 2 games. They've been pressured just 7 times.
Oh wow.
So that's the one area. Those 2 areas, both Iowa's defensive line against Iowa State's offensive line, and Iowa State's defensive line against Iowa's offensive line. That battle in the trenches, I think Iowa has a. At least on paper. I mean, once you get out there, it's the Cyhawk rivalry. You never know what's going to happen. But on paper, I think Iowa has a pretty big advantage in the battle in the trenches. And that's somewhere where I think if Iowa wins those 2 areas handily, I think that's something that could really push Iowa towards a win. But Mark Gronowski's got to play better, and I think he will. But yeah, I mean, this is always a close game. And like I said, there's a lot of headlines. There's always a lot of headlines for the Cyhawk game.
It's funny because Pat Anger mentioned yesterday, like he watched tape of the Iowa offensive line, and I know he used the word violent, probably dominant. I mean, they looked really good. I think because of the uneven performance from Mark Gronowski, and I look at it as an incomplete. Like it was just a weird night, a weird game. Some jitters and some bad throws in his first couple drives. Then they just decided to run the football and make sure they win a football game and get things taken care of. And then he cramps. And so he doesn't really get it's just it was weird. But I know that's like the headline and people are talking about it, but the line, the offensive line looked really good. And I think that's something that the coaching staff knows. I think they know that's an advantage and a possible place where Iowa can do some good things coming up in Ames on Saturday. And you look at it as well. I mean, the numbers have it so that Iowa hasn't won or hasn't lost in Ames in a while, but it feels like everyone you mentioned is picking Iowa State and thinking Iowa State. And you know what? I was one of those people against South Dakota that thought, man, like this could be a lot closer than what it was. And then it was what we saw. Do you have a prediction, young man, when it comes to the Cyhawk game on Saturday?
A prediction. I mean, it's early in the week. I don't know. I mean, I don't know that I'm ready to make a prediction, but I think Mark Gronowski's going to play better. I think that, he mentioned it after the game, some nerves, a little amped up. I mean, he's played in Kinnick Stadium before, but he hasn't played there in an Iowa uniform. I think some of his throws, if you look back and watch them, it just seemed like a guy that was just playing a little tight. The plays were there on a couple of occasions. And he just, didn't get the ball to the guy to make a play. And I'd like to think, I mean, there's a lot of people that were really upset about the play, that here we go again stuff. But this is a guy that's won a couple of national titles. He won the FCS Heisman Award.
He's
thrown for over 10,000 yards.
He's 50-6 as a starting quarterback.
Yeah,
I mean, he didn't forget.
You don't tie Kellen Moore's D1 record for wins in a career by being a bad quarterback. So I think, we got to cut him a little slack here with some of the comments that have been made about, oh, here we go again, stuff like that. He has to be better against Iowa State. That is a fact. He has to be better against Iowa State, but I think he's going to be better against Iowa State. And then you mentioned the run game was really good. And again, yeah, it's Albany. So how much do you take away? But like I said, it's an Iowa State defensive line that again, I don't want to be disrespectful. They're an average defensive line. Their numbers were not good last year, and they haven't been good through 2 games. Yeah. And they're going up against an Iowa offensive line that is really good with the backfield that, no, there's no Caleb Johnson back there, but it's a deep backfield, and Kamari Moulton's going to be out. But we saw Xavier Williams is very capable of running the football. Jazz Patterson is certainly capable of running the football. And that's not even mentioning who's going to start, which is Terrell Washington, who can run the football and catch the ball out of the backfield. I'm going to lean towards Iowa just because of, like I said, the play in the trenches. And I'm not one all the time to say I know every year is its own individual year, but the fact that Iowa State has not won an Ames since 2011, that has to be factored in. It has to be factored in to a certain extent. Kirk finds a way to win in these games. He might not say it, but this is a game that he wants to win. I think this game, Minnesota, Nebraska, he's not going to say it. He's not going to come out and say, I hate so-and-so, whatever, but he wants to win these games. I think this is a game where it's going to be the national analyst picking against Iowa. The offense didn't look great. Mark didn't look great. And I think this is a game that Iowa can certainly go win. So I'll lean towards Iowa right now. I don't know if that's my official prediction, but we'll see how it plays out this weekend.
I like that. I like that a lot. And you know what my prediction is? At some point you're going to read on X during the game that, like, Mark Gronowski has twice as many passing yards in the first quarter as he did all day on Saturday, or something along those lines. It's going to be halftime, and somebody's going to say, like, Mark Gronowski's nearly tripled his passing yardage from game 1 on game 2 already, and all that kind of stuff, because it was such a weird number as well. The Hawkeye Report is where it's at when it comes to all your pregame coverage for what you need for Iowa State and Iowa coming up. And you mentioned soccer's going on, field hockey's going on, a lot of basketball recruiting going on for the women as well. So they're keeping you busy as Kyle continues to carry people over there. One person. I don't want to say people. I'm going to say carry one person over there. Still.
Yeah, I mean, it's a busy time of year, like you said. With football is obviously the one that's going to garner the most eyes. But like you said, I mean, soccer season's going. They're ranked 10th in the country right now. Field hockey's ranked 15th, and like I said, fall baseball we're going to be about a month away from fall baseball getting going. That'll be a really interesting fall for them. And gosh, I mean, before we know it, we'll be talking about. We'll be done talking about women's basketball recruiting. We'll be talking about the people that are actually on the team and the season that's coming up. So, yeah, I mean, it's a really great time of year. Like I said, football season is in my opinion the best. College football season is the best time of year, but there's plenty more going on for us to cover.
No, it's a ton of fun. Kyle, I appreciate your time. Enjoy Cy-Hawk Week, and we'll chat with you again real soon.
Thanks for having me on.
All right, that is Kyle Huesmann from the Hawkeye Report. As we mentioned, it's an extremely busy week. Cy-Hawk game in full swing. Everyone's excited to get rocking and rolling with that. And I do want to mention tomorrow, coming up on tomorrow's show, we're going to do a little roundtable with the aforementioned Tom Kakert and Bill Seals. Bill Seals is the publisher for the Cyclone Report. So a little even sides when it comes to Iowa and Iowa State coming up tomorrow. A little more preview as we hit that game every single day this week. We had Pat Anger on Tuesday, Kyle Huesmann talking about it today, Jake Brend already talking about it. Tomorrow we'll have that roundtable as well. So we'll get you everything leading up to the game, and then of course the pregame, the Hawkeye Tailgate Show. I got to plug that as well. Make sure you check that out on the Hawkeye Radio Network. And then of course the game is coming up on Saturday at 11 a.m. We got more to get to. Up next, we're going to turn our attention to the high school side of things and chat with our good friend Ty Taylor from WRMJ and get a look at the Three Rivers Conference and much more. You're watching Off the Air on a Wednesday right here in the Quad Cities. Are you looking to take your next party, tailgate, or golf outing to the next level? You need Mobile Party Experience. MPX features 3 top-of-the-line party trailers equipped with all the amenities you need to party like a rock star. Smart TVs, Yeti coolers, JBL sound systems, grills, bathrooms, and much more. Mobile Party Experience is an experience like no other. Check out my-mpx.com or call 563-514-1470 and book your Mobile Party Experience today.
Hello, Dan Pearson here of FCA. Our team is thrilled to support Off the Air with our good friend Matt Randazzo. We share the view of the power of sport when it comes to relationships, including the influence of the coach. FCA believes the coach is the most influential person in America. Matt celebrates local coaches and athletes. His content is informational, insightful, and inspirational. Our Fellowship of Christian Athlete team loves partnering with Off the Air with Matt Randazzo while we engage, equip, and empower coaches and athletes in our 23 counties. FCA, the heart and soul in sports.
View from the West, the podcast covering Illinois high school football.
It's going to be a hard-hitting game. It's going to be great football.
Weekly analysis and reaction from around the western side of the state of Illinois.
This is the game we had circled when the year started.
Follow along on YouTube and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.
It's big-time football out there tonight, and I know we can play big-time football.
View from the West. We got you covered.
Are you looking for the Quad City's best chips and salsa? There's only one dude to turn to.
Right on.
Snoop. Hand-cut chips, fried fresh with that crunch you've come to love. And the most addicting salsa with delicious fresh ingredients each and every time. Pick up your chips and salsa, queso, enchiladas, and much more at the Stern Center in Rock Island. To place your order, simply call the man himself. It's Snoop at 309-314-8197 and find out for yourself what the rest of the Quad Cities already loves. Welcome back to Off the Air with Matt Randazzo here on a Wednesday already in the Quad Cities. The week is moving by quickly, which is a good thing. We'll be to Friday soon. Friday, of course, means high school football. Week 2 of the high school football season is officially upon us, and we got a lot to talk about. And, of course, we start our previews of the week with a familiar face. And a guy, I feel bad, Ty, because I did say last week, hey, we're going to get you in studio. And you're there and I'm here. Next week, I promise. Like, the house is a disaster. And I'm like, you know what? We're going to do this. But, like, next week, you're going to get me a Polar Pop, a Diet Mountain Dew Polar Pop.
All right, from the Alito Circle K.
Oh, exactly. It's got a great pour, a great mixture. They do a great job with it. So, happy Wednesday. How was week 1 for you?
It was exciting, you know, like we were talking about last week. It feels like it takes forever to get back around, and it just covering high school football is so much fun. There's just so much I feel like that goes into week 1 that makes it so exciting, because football is one of those sports, and we've talked about this before too, where it feels like year over year you don't really know, because there's just so much change from team to team, from year to year. So you start to learn a little bit more, I think, in week 1, but there are still a lot of questions, I think, up in the air, especially as we get into the Three Rivers schedule for this week. I think this week will start to kind of paint a clearer picture, but in a league that's so competitive, like we've talked about before too, you know, I think it's going to be, like we've said, a really exciting year, you know, week 1 through week 9.
It's funny because week 1 has the overreactions, the, oh my gosh, this is awful. Our good friend Brian Stocking, we both know, is very good at like painting a doom and gloom picture when it comes to just a sample size of what they got. Kind of talk about that, because week 1 is great and there's tons of excitement for those teams that are 0-1, and there's doom and gloom for some, but like there's probably a happy median with a lot of it, and they just want to get back out. The biggest improvement, I know it's cliche, they say the biggest improvement is between week 1 and week 2. Despite what happened last week, there's a lot of football left to be played for these teams, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. And I know one of the things you always joke about with Stocking is, I remember last year when we were on View from the West, the night of week 1, I forget who he was talking about, but he said a couple of teams had a must-win game the next week. And, you know, that's an overreaction to an extent. But, you know, when you look, I think when you talk about reacting to week 1, it's more so on a, you know, specific basis, team by team, when you look at like the schedules they have to play. Because, you know, if you have, you know, 3 or 4 games still down the line of some of the top teams in your league, then yeah, you know, the games are important. When you have a chance to win, you need to win them. But yeah, like you said, there's always so much improvement from week 1 to week 2. And in the Three Rivers specifically,
there's 4 teams with new head coaches, so that always takes a little bit to get used to. And I think, by and large, all 4 of them are running somewhat new systems, offensively at least. So that's something that we saw with Mercer County and Sherrard, 2 schools that we cover, is it's a completely new look in week 1, and both teams struggled for the most part offensively. So it's something that takes a while to get used to, and especially when you talk about playing in week 1, it's completely different running your system against your scout team in practice as opposed to, for example, Mercer County played Monmouth Roseville, who's a great team. Sherrard played Rockridge, who's a great team. You just can't really get a look like that. You can't get really ready to play a level of competition that brings you in practice for 3 weeks. So I expect, both of those teams and the other teams that have new coaches in the League 2 to get better as the kids get more full speed game reps.
Ty Taylor, my favorite Taylor, although I did get to see your old man at Alleman. I was so bummed because we were in the same booth, and I'm like, I get to hang out with Jim Taylor the entire night. And then and I don't know if he told you, but the PA system went down. So like I had to move across. I was like a little kid and I got grounded. It was great. I had like Tom Johnston there. I had Thomas Smith. I had your dad. It was going to be a good party all night. And then I got sent to my room across the stadium. But it was always great to see your dad as well. Ty Taylor from WRMJ joining me right now and Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. I pump the brakes on doom and gloom, and then I look at week 2 and I go, man, is Princeton going to be 0-2? And that's probably the marquee matchup that we'll start with. Rockridge played well. They get a victory. They go to Princeton. Princeton knocked off by a really good Newman team on the road, 28-14. So Princeton, really good football team. They're not going to go 0-2, but they could because they got a really good Rockridge team coming to town. That's the marquee game this week, isn't it?
Absolutely. And speaking about Princeton, that's a program that it's going to be interesting to see how they respond because they don't lose very often and they don't lose in the regular season very often. They did last year to Monmouth Roseville and bounced back and just basically went on a war path the rest of the year until they got to the quarterfinals and played competitive with Montini, who of course went on to win the 3A state championship. So their response will be interesting. And we talked about them coming into the year too. It's a program that they've lost some great players year over year. And then they lost another Division I player last year to graduation, Noah Laporte. So, for them, it's probably trying to find some of those kids to step up into those roles. But you talk about, when you try to find kids to step into roles and having the start of the schedule that they have going Newman in week 1 and then Rockridge in week 2. I mean, that is a really tough start to the year where you're probably playing the, other 2 best teams in the conference probably. So, it's hard to see them falling to 0-2, but on the other side of the coin, Rockridge is really, really good too. And I think Rockridge has the best player in the conference individually and maybe the best 2A player in the state in Colin Schweigen. He had 6 touchdowns last week against Sherrard to begin
just 6?
season. Yeah, he only had 6.
Gosh, man.
So he set a record with 32 single season touchdowns last year for the Rockets. So that'll be a really fun matchup. I think 2 teams that have really strong defenses. And I think, for Rockridge, at least on their end, that maybe gives them a little bit of an advantage coming in is, they get to see, a full game tape of Princeton playing a competitive against a team in Newman who gave them looks, they struggled with obviously only scoring 14 points. Newman was able to score 28 points on the offensive side of things. Where for Princeton preparing for Rockridge, yes, there's a lot of familiar names that are back, but, Rockridge had that game against Sherrard 1 in 5 minutes basically. So, I think there are probably some wrinkles that Rockridge can throw at Princeton they didn't have to show in week 1, where Princeton, I know, ran a lot of Wildcat stuff with Casey Etheridge and they kind of dug deep into their bag of tricks in week 1 already. So that's something on the Rockridge side of things that I like, but, going to Princeton, beating Princeton on the road is something that not very many teams are able to do. So that'll be a really, I think, compelling result, and it should be a very competitive game too. I expect that to be one score, 2 scores down to the wire. Rockridge and Princeton, they play good games every year, it feels like.
Yeah, and it's funny. I said, Princeton can't go 0-2. I didn't mean that as any disrespect to Rockridge. They could. Like, Rockridge is a really good football team, maybe not tested to the highest level in week 1, but that starts for Rockridge now. They start going through a gauntlet where they have good team after good team after good team to prepare for, which you kind of expect in the Three Rivers Conference. Also, by the way, Sportsline, every Saturday on WRMJ, you talk to these coaches as well, so you can go check it out right now, middle of the week, and you want to find out what Sam's Grave says or Chip Filler or any of those guys on the Three Rivers that you guys cover at WRMJ. Go check it out at Sportsline at WRMJ.com. I think the other one that kind of hops out to me is Orion and Monmouth Roseville. Orion, I think it was 21-21 at half, and then they scored the next 19 and beat Hall. And then you look at Monmouth Roseville, you got to see them up close and personal, and they were very impressive against Mercer County. So up 28-0 at one point, defensively, get takeaways, all those kind of things. What did you see from Monmouth Roseville? And then maybe thoughts of this Orion-Monmouth Roseville matchup in week 2.
Well, speaking about Monmouth Roseville, it's kind of, typical what they've looked like the past few years. Really big, really physical, run-heavy offense, a really stout and physical defense that just flies to the ball. They lost a lot of talent from a year ago, but they look to have reloaded, and they were actually missing one of their top players on both sides of the ball against Mercer County too, Andrew Way, who I don't know if he'll be back this week, but he should be back by week 3 or week 4, who was a first-team all-conference linebacker last year. So they did all of that without him playing. But like I said, they just are so big and so deep too, where they just can bring waves at you up front of kids who are 6'1", 6'2", 250 plus that all move really well and get off the ball really well. So I was just really impressed because I think the number one thing that they did outside of the takeaways, which were a big part of their winning against Mercer County on Friday night, were just the type of depth they were able to reach into up front, where defensively they're able to bring kids in and out quickly, where a lot of the Mercer County kids and a lot of teams, statewide at the small school level especially, just don't have a lot of depth that you can, rotate kids in and out up front. A lot of the times it's, 4 or 5 offensive linemen are playing every snap on defense too, where Monmouth Roseville doesn't have to do that. And that gives them such an advantage, I think, as games progress and get into the second half, and the style they play where it just is the heavy wing T, run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. If they get a lead, they're really tough to come back on because of that depth. And then also, they're able to bleed clock, get a first down. It's like 2.5 minutes. They're able to bleed off the clock on the next set of downs. So they were impressive. And I think when you talk about the game with Orion coming up on Friday, it's interesting because it's such a clash of styles where, Monmouth Roseville is super big, super physical. They're going to run the ball every down. Orion spreads it out. They almost pass the ball every down. And they have a really good quarterback and a really good receiving core. I think up front, Monmouth Roseville has a strong advantage, but Monmouth Roseville, though their secondary did play well against Mercer County, it was out of a wing T look that Mercer County gave. It's going to be a completely different, type of defense you have to play against 4 receivers, 5 wide receivers. So Orion, that's the thing that's going for them, is offensively they can throw it around, and they've got a really good quarterback and a really strong receiver. So it is an interesting matchup, I think, because of just how different the two teams play. And Orion, I think, has taken a step forward from a tough year last year. They, like you said, put together a nice performance in week 1, beating Hall 40-21. They can score. We know they're going to be able to score defensively, though. It was really nice to see them, I think, force 3 turnovers in the second half to help themselves put that game away against Hall. So I think Monmouth Roseville definitely a favorite going into that game, but like we talked about at the beginning of our conversation, a lot of unknowns. How good Orion really is, I think, is an unknown. We'll start to kind of learn more about that this week, I think.
Yeah, just a difference in styles, which is going to be kind of fun to watch on Friday night. That game down in Monmouth, I believe, as well. I want to go to Newman because we talked about them. I think I picked them to win the that side, that division. I can't remember. I think you did as well. I don't know what you picked with week 1 with that game against Newman and Princeton. I know you and Greg and Mitch, you do this fancy little pick'em thing you left me out of. Like, I wasn't good enough to be part of the big table and do all that kind of stuff. I had Newman, so it wasn't a huge surprise to me, but the way they did it, I thought was really impressive. Let's talk about Newman because I think that was maybe the statement victory of week 1 in this conference.
It was, and we can add you next season. I just thought that Matt Randazzo would be way too busy and way too cool to hang out with me and Mitch and Greg. So, but yeah, I agree with you that was definitely I think that headliner game of the week for sure. Two teams that were state ranked, and I was really high on Newman. I thought Princeton would win. I picked Princeton to win. By the way, that was the only game I got wrong. I was 5-1 last week, so everybody just don't go too crazy on me. But yeah, I mean, just the way Newman did it, you know what I mean? It was a really balanced offense. We're with head coach Mike LeMay taking over the past few years. They've started to spread it out a little more. They still have that traditional, Newman offense they can go to where they just run right at you. But he does a good job. Evan Bushman, their quarterback, is a 3-year starter. They brought back 4 all-conference offensive linemen from a year ago, and we talked about, their backfield last week with the transfer Rylan Alvarado from Morrison. They had a few other kids step up. I think George Youngerman rushed for 2 touchdowns. So really impressed with their balance offensively against Princeton. And then Newman is always just so good defensively, and another great performance by them on Friday night. I don't believe they allowed a completion to Princeton, and all of Princeton's, I think, offensive yards were on the ground. So a really nice performance by Newman defensively. I think the expectations for Newman, at least for me, were really high. They've risen a little bit now after beating a team like Princeton. You look at Newman, who projects to be right on that 1A, 2A line. You don't know how many teams in those classes would beat Princeton, right? So I think for their postseason path, I mean, as long as they can stay healthy, and that's a long way away, there's still 8 regular season games to play. But I think that Newman team has a chance to really go on a deep and special run this year if they can stay healthy, because like I said, that's a statement win as a team like Newman Central Catholic to beat a program like Princeton, who feels like never loses in week 1 the way they did.
Yeah, absolutely. Ty Taylor joining me right now and off the air with Matt Randazzo, and you're right. I mean, Newman to play the way they did, and I know the rankings, I think, come out today. I think it's a Wednesday they normally come out with the AP. So, and you mentioned, I think, 4th in 1A to start the season for Newman, but it depends where they land and where they go to. Them in 1A, there's some really good teams in 1A when it comes to bigger picture stuff. And Ty, we've talked about it. I've talked a lot about it. We haven't gotten to state in a while. We like our area, our Quad City area, and it was a tradition. We go there all the time. So that might be one of those teams. Rockridge, another team that could make some noise and maybe get to a state championship game as well. Before we let you go, Riverdale and Erie Prophetstown, both 1-0, both had nice victories to open the season, both have high expectations. EP had to wait until the next day. Some weird weather stuff. Blame those weather guys. Who was more impressive week 1? I know you didn't see both of them, but which victory is more positive or more attractive? Riverdale 20-0 victory over Mendota, or what Erie Prophetstown did against what I think is a good Kewanee team?
Yeah, I think you can't complain if you're either program.
Yeah.
But for me, I think Erie Prophetstown's win was more impressive just because that game felt like more of a toss-up going in. And Erie Prophetstown, they lost a great dynamic player in Dimitri Larson from a year ago. And they were really able to do a good job defensively holding Kewanee to 6 points. And I agree with you. I think Kewanee is a solid team. So them to be able to kind of control that game from start to finish the way they did, and impressive. I know both teams have to do it, but to basically take that week 1 excitement from Friday night, don't even get a kickoff, and you have to turn around and play on Saturday afternoon. They were able to get the win. So I was impressed with that win. Riverdale, on the same token, a program like them who has struggled win-loss wise over the years. They had a great year last year, but just missed the playoffs. It was so important for them, I think, to put a good step forward. They did in a game that they were definitely favored in against Mendota. That's one of those games, though, that I don't know how much you really can take away from, because there was a lengthy delay. They played the game through Friday night, but it was kind of a late time resuming. It's raining, so it's just weird conditions, you know what I mean? So that's something interesting, too. I know Riverdale this week has Kewanee, which is a huge game for both teams in terms of their playoff aspirations, and I think Erie Prophetstown has Hall. So there's a chance that both of those teams get off to 2-0 starts, and we talked about this last week with how competitive the Rock division of the TRAC looks like it's going to be. I mean, Mercer County was the only team on that side of the league that lost last week. it's going to be tough to get wins weeks 3 through 7 when you get to divisional play. So, I mean, every game is super, super important when you have chances to win. If you want to get to the playoffs, you need to win because you don't know how many options you're going to have. You know what I mean? So, those are 2 big games for both of those teams this week, Erie, Provincetown, and Riverdale. But nice wins for them to certainly kick off the season 1-0.
You'll appreciate this. Brian Stocking tweeted something about the shutout victory for Riverdale, and it made sense. I don't want to misquote it, but basically first opening week shutout since whatever, and I'm like, that's quality information. And then he tweeted out like, Rock Island and Alleman played a varsity home football game on the same Friday night for the first time since 2002. Well, no kidding, Stock. Alleman didn't have a team the last 2 years, so it's just like, remember, like, that's fool's gold, right, Ty? That's fool's gold.
Yes. That is fool's gold. Sometimes, and I love Stocking, and the only I'll give him some grief, but he is so funny with some of that stuff. I love his tweets, or like when he goes on TV, and some of the statistics he gives are like the most obvious. Like, well, yes, of course that happened. You know what I mean? Where it's like, I don't know if that's really worthy of mentioning.
My joke is always, and he's never said this, but I always say, like, Stockpile's like, Alleman is a perfect 25-0 when scoring more points than their opponent. And I'm like, well, of course they are. Like, that's just kind of the way that he has great stuff. Stock, we're kidding. If you're listening, and I know you are.
We are kidding.
We love you and all that kind of stuff as well. Tell us what you guys have this week on WRMJ when it comes to Friday night.
All right, so Friday night we have Mercer County at Sherrard. I'll give you a Stocking stat right now. First trip for Aledo/Mercer County to Clifford King Field at Sherrard High School since 2005, I believe.
Wow.
And so that's exciting with the local rivalry being renewed. Mercer County and Sherrard played last year in Mercer County's first year back in the TRAC, but now Mercer County gets to make that return trip over to Sherrard. Just basically down the road. We have that game we talked about earlier, Rockridge at Princeton, which should be really exciting and in a game that should come down to the wire. And then Orion and Monmouth Roseville, an intriguing game like we talked about too. So I think potential for 3 pretty competitive games on the WRMJ airwaves this weekend. Looking forward to Friday night.
The powerhouse that it is. Did you get on the View from the West Instant Reacts? Did you get to hop on this week or no? Probably not.
I was not on this week. I was not a big enough guest. I saw Mike LeMay was on and Jeremy Adolphson and Matt Randazzo, but I was bounced out because they got the big media personality mogul Matt Randazzo instead of me.
I almost didn't make it. I was at Alleman waiting for the rain to stop and all that kind of stuff. So, but I do want to point out and remind people with Ty here as well. It was great, and they got great response to it. So every Friday night, 10:15, View from the West Instant React podcast. It's on their YouTube channel. We'll tweet it out. I'll tweet it out as well, the link. So, and Ty will be there. Greg's watching this right now, rolling his eyes.
Yeah.
He's rolling his eyes saying, well, I mean, I thought he was late, whatever. So I think it's really cool what's going on there. And so it's a ton of fun. Like you mentioned, coaches were on, handsome celebrities like myself. I mean, you can't go wrong on a Friday night. So Ty, I always appreciate it. We'll do it again next week at the Palace with the Diet Mountain Dew in my hand. Okay.
Awesome, man. And real quick before we wrap up, I got one more thing to ask you because I was watching a little bit on Friday night. Now, your son was driving, no accidents, no deer hit or anything?
None, but like I'm telling you, and you know the road that we call a golf course road. It's the road Highland Springs out to 92 or 94. Yeah, there's just deer everywhere, and the reception is awful. So it was great. Yeah, I was like, I can't do this. I'm like, oh, I can. Charlie's with me. He's got the permit. He's like a month away, less than a month away to get the full-time license and all that kind of stuff, which will be great because I don't have to drive them all around. But we survived. Thank you for deer are nasty, man. I hate deer, so I appreciate it, my friend.
Me too.
All right, enjoy your Friday night.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, that is Ty Taylor from WRMJ joining us to kind of set up what is going to be a fantastic conference throughout the entire season, the Three Rivers, kind of kicking off our look ahead to week 2. We looked back yesterday. We'll have Mitch and Greg on Friday. We'll preview the Iowa side of the river as well. So a lot to get to this week. High school football off and running and a ton of fun. We got more to get to. You're watching Off the Air with Matt Randazzo here on a Wednesday in the Quad Cities.
Give me the keys.
Learning to drive can be stressful for both the student and, yes, the parent as well. Relax. There's an easy way to avoid the stress. Skiles Driving School in East Moline has been helping new drivers hit the road with confidence for over 20 years. Whether you're a teen earning your first license or an adult looking for behind-the-wheel training, we've got you covered. Their certified instructors are patient, experienced, and use modern vehicles equipped for safety and comfort. From classroom instruction to real-world driving, we make learning safe, affordable, and even fun. Call 309-278-0098 or visit skylesdriving.com. Skiles Driving School. Get in, buckle up, drive your future forward.
All right, be honest. Are you craving Hungry Hobo again? You know, that fresh sliced meat piled high on those amazing sandwiches, hot off the grill chicken and steak, with all those delicious toppings, the biggest and best selection of baked potatoes, or simply some waffle fries dipped in cheese. Well, now that Quad City favorite is even easier to get. Download the Hungry Hobo app today. Order ahead, skip the line, and earn rewards all at the same time. There's Double Points Monday and exclusive specials as well. With 12 locations in the Quad City area, it's Hungry Hobo, now even easier to find, but still hard to resist.
Rafferty Funeral Home, dedicated to serving families in the Quad Cities since 2007.
Hi, welcome. Here, come on in.
An experienced staff plans each service to reflect the unique life and legacy of your loved one. Rafferty Funeral Home is proud to serve our community with dignity, respect, and compassion, helping you to celebrate your traditions and lasting memories no matter your faith, culture, or budget. Rafferty Funeral Home in Moline. Call today to discuss prearrangements.
When it comes to quality, convenient pizza, Godfather's Pizza in Silvis has you covered. Featuring a beautiful dine-in area, delivery, and a carry-out window. Godfather's Pizza is that pizza you grew up with, not a convenience store. You see, at Godfather's Pizza, the dough is made fresh daily. That mozzarella cheese is shredded fresh and never frozen. And those toppings are abundantly piled high each and every time. Locally owned and operated since 2010, Godfather's is a huge supporter of local athletes right here in the Quad Cities. So come on by and check them out at 1211 Avenue of the Cities in Silvis. Order online at godfathers.com and reunite with that same delicious pizza you grew up with. Welcome back to Off the Air with Matt Randazzo here on a Wednesday in the Quad Cities. Excuse me. I had a coughing attack right before as the break was getting done, but we're ready to go and rocking and rolling. It's been a fun Wednesday here in the Quad Cities. I look outside and it's a rainy, cloudy, dreary Wednesday. So I like football weather. I feel like going downstairs, putting the fireplace on, watching some football. Unfortunately, I can't do those things. But maybe this weekend a little bit. It should be a lot of fun. Want to remind you guys on a few things. Coming up on tomorrow's show, we got a round table with the Cyhawk game with Tom Caker from the Hawkeye Report and Bill Seals from the Cyclone Report. Should be a lot of fun to kind of break down and go even further into depth into that game. Also, we'll get some Illini talk as well when they get ready for the road game to Duke, the 11th ranked Fighting Illini. And I'm really excited because tomorrow we'll be welcoming Mark Nessler to the show. Anybody who's been a lifelong Quad Citian remembers Nest Guess. It was one of my favorite things growing up. I got to do it with Mark Nessler, the contest as a sports director as well. We're bringing Nest Guess back. So Ness will be here tomorrow. We'll talk about how you can get involved. Pick games every week, weekly prizes. Ness and I are going to bet like we used to back in the day. It'll be a ton of fun. So Nest Guess launches tomorrow. Super excited about it. And we want to thank Hungry Hobo for being an exclusive sponsor for the Nest Guess contest. We're really excited about it. I'm pumped. I can't wait. So, and Ness is pretty excited as well. So we'll get to that tomorrow. On Friday, we're on the road once again. OTA goes on the road to Geneseo High School. We'll be there to preview high school football. We'll be there to talk about Assumption and Geneseo, a unique matchup. We'll talk with head coach Matt Furlong. I just looked down and I saw he he texted me that we're good to go for Friday. So I'm going to have him on, maybe a few players as well. So an exciting day on Friday. We'll also have Mitch and Greg from View from the West on Friday to talk about the games on that side of the river. We'll preview the Iowa side as well. So a lot to get to on Friday out in Geneseo. Don't forget, on Friday evening, we have the Instant Reacts podcast for View from the West. I'll be joining them at 10:15. A lot of fun last week. Coaches, stats, breaking down games, encouraging your videos to get sent in as well. So the Instant Reacts podcast for View from the West, you can check them out. Head to View from the West on the YouTube page and subscribe to them as well. So that will be fun. On Saturday, don't forget about the Hawkeye Tailgate Show. We'll be live from Big Grove Brewery in Iowa City. Super excited about that. So if you're in the Iowa City area, 9 to 10, stop by. We'll have our anger analysis. We will have Zach Lutmer, Iowa safety, with an Inside the Huddle interview. We'll have the head coach of Iowa field hockey. She'll be there as well. Bunch of stuff. We'll have our press box perspective, kind of breaking down that game. Possibly Julian Vandervelde making the trip up to join me as well. So a lot to get to. So check out the Hawkeye Tailgate Show on the Hawkeye Radio Network right here in the Quad Cities. You can hear it on Vintage Radio 107.7 FM. So check that out as well. And join us if you're anywhere in the state. Check us out. Really excited to be the pregame host for the Iowa Football Radio Network. And then last but not least, on Saturday afternoon, after the Iowa State game gets done, we'll hop on for a special show like we did last week. Last week was at midnight, and it was still well watched. It was amazing how many people watched it. So we'll do the same thing, a little shorter show, kind of breaking down the Iowa State game, maybe touch on the Illinois game as well. We'll do that on Saturday afternoon sometime. So, and then I'm going to sit and watch football on Sunday. I watch my beloved Detroit Lions go to Lambeau Field and knock off the soon-to-be Super Bowl champions. That's what everybody tells me. The Packers are going to win the Super Bowl now because they got Micah Parsons. So I guess we're playing for second, and I don't even know if the Lions are good enough to take second. Everyone tells me Ben Johnson and the Bears are the best team in the world too. So anyways, we'll talk some more NFL tomorrow as well. That'll be part of our Nest Guest picks as well. If you missed anything in today's show, go check it out. Jake Brend is awesome. He's our Cyclone expert, talking about this week's game between Iowa and Iowa State. Kyle Huesmann talking Iowa women's basketball recruiting, a big-time visitor on campus last weekend. We'll see if we can, or if the Hawkeyes can land her, and a bunch of big-time recruits coming to Iowa City. We also talked some Cyhawks with him. And then Ty Taylor talking high school football. Nothing better than small school, small-town high school football with Ty Taylor. So go check that out. Ty from WRMJ does a fantastic job as well. If you missed us yesterday, Pat Anger was on the show. Rusty Van Wetzinga was on the show. And Tom Barber, the Alleman head football coach, on the show as well. So check out yesterday's show as well. Well, it's been a fun, jam-packed show here on a Wednesday. And, man, I feel like we've already covered a ton this week, and we're just getting warmed up. We have a brand-new show coming your way tomorrow. Excited about that. And then, of course, check out the shows that you missed on any of the podcasting platforms, YouTube, or X as well. We want to thank our great sponsors. I usually have a fancy little graphic I put up at the end. I got to remember to do that tomorrow. But we thank them for everything they do, for allowing us to do this show each and every day right here in the Quad Cities. Off the air with Matt Randazzo. We'll see you guys back again tomorrow.